This is going to be rather tame by comparison. It happened to me back when I was in college. I don't remember the exact year, but I do remember that Prince Charles married Lady Diana Spencer that summer. And I was looking for a job. Coming to the end of the year, I've been going to stay down there. I was going to take a course in n-dimensional matrices for one of my mathematics courses, and this was the only time to take it that summer. Looking for a job anywhere, but all the students were leaving campus, so fewer jobs were needed, but my resume, and I get this letter saying, "Dear John, congratulations, you've been accepted as part of our team to do the grants work this summer." And I had no idea what I'd applied. They said, not many grants at McDonald's or at the local bookstore, but I had a grant. So to show up here on this day. So, on the appointed day, I go to this classroom, sit down, and there is Professor Hamish, who's at the beginning and says, "All right, as you know, we have 7 weeks to work on this NASA project." Which really confused me because I didn't apply for any NASA project. But I was now on a team working on a NASA project for Professor Hamish. And he went on talking about this, and a few things that I learned very quickly. Number one, Professor Hamish loved to talk, which was great because I didn't have anything to say. And number two, he hated Professor Schuler, whoever that was. That was, I guess every professor, you need a nemesis, you need a rival, somebody that you have to disprove. And if we could do nothing else that summer, if we could disprove any of Professor Schuler's theories, that would be a success. Well, we got out of the meeting and I'm talking to some of the other people. They're mainly the grad students, because why would the professors talk to me? And as we're talking, he said, "Oh, yeah, you know, I had Professor Wissenberg. It was really weird. He teaches in the same area. I know he's off this summer." And then it occurred to me that probably the letter wasn't really supposed to go to John Wissenberg. It was supposed to go to Professor John Weissenborn. But there was no one I could complain to at this time, and they were giving me money enough to cover my next year's expenses at college and everything, and my tuition and books even. If you knew the price, it'd be extremely low nowadays. But it was great for me. This was the best summer job I had. Now, not much we could do. We had a schedule, so okay, we're meeting on this date. There's 7 meetings to discuss what's going on. But end of the first meeting, Professor Hamish said, "Okay, until we get more direction from NASA, I want you all to go back and just read these papers and wait till we get our direction." So I went back and I tried reading those papers. They were way over my head. But come back the next week, and there it says, "Okay," and Professor Hamish, love him, loves to talk. So I could just sit there and not do anything. And then he turns to one of the others, "Okay, I'd like you to present." And this other professor stood up and he began talking about his theories on orbital trajectories and how they would work. Now, many things I've learned from theater, and if you're going to lie, make it big. So the other professor finished it up and everyone was now dispersing. So walk up to the other professor. "Excuse me, I noticed that you were saying that in the first stages, you would have to double the thrust. Could you explain that a bit?" Professors love to talk about their subject. I just mentioned that. I just caught that little bit out of everything he said. And he went on explaining how you double the thrust at this point, how it will extend the trajectory and save fuel, and then be able to reuse more fuel later on. He went on, and so that was the first thing. Always go up after someone talks and just ask, "I noticed you talked about this," and they talked about it. Now, the second thing I learned is that you didn't really have to say a lot. They'd be talking and talking about the thrust, the trajectory, the fuel usage, and then an internal suborbit. And all you have to do is turn, "An internal suborbit?" "Yes, an internal suborbit." And they'd go on for another half hour. Everything was going great. Turned up for my third meeting, and this was the days before emails and text. I didn't know there was no third meeting. That had been canceled, which was great for me. It didn't say anything. Fourth meeting went back, same Professor Hamish talked. Somebody else stood up, go and talk to him for a little bit, and just extend the conversation. This worked until the 6th meeting. Hamish had talked, and then he turned to me and said, "All right, Weiss, what do you think about this?" Lost. Didn't really know what to say here. And so I'm sitting here looking at it, and I'm looking at the equation. These were blackboard days. Looking at the equations on the blackboards, the only other heads, and then only thing I could think of was, didn't Schuler propose something like this? and the look on Hamish's face. He had just proposed something that Schuler, his rival, had proposed. He had, do you remember? Oh my God. Okay, forget it. We'll meet again next week. Next week was the final one. I'd gotten my final paycheck, and it was done. Now, I later talked to my friend Bruce. He was a grad student there, and was telling him about this, and says, John, they probably knew you really weren't there, but the grant said they had to have 7 people on the staff. If you dropped out, the grant would have been invalidated. So, I got the money. I learned a little bit more how to fake things, and I'm sorry, Professor Schuler, wherever you are, but Professor Hamish is going to disprove you.